Hi, everybody. I'm going to try to look at the camera more often now. I'm literally right below you, and I have to watch myself, kind of. But I'm going to try to look at you more. But today's topic is going to be on sports betting. Now, everybody talks about how harmful sports betting is, and that's true. Realistically, I'm not going to focus on that because it's been beaten to death. It is harmful. The problem is we as a society has been taught that our only way out is to gamble or win the lottery or just get lucky, right? So everybody and I know is betting on these sports that have little to no winning margin. I understand football at a high level, so I'm up a lot of money when I bet. But I also am very strict with the way I bet. I don't chase my losses and I don't rely on getting lucky. I do structured bets that over a certain period of time, say I'll lose $150. I average about every $150 I lose, I win about four. And I stack it in that way. But I do lose more than I win. I just win more money than I lose, if that makes sense. Uh, and I structure this by being very disciplined in how I bet. So let's talk about how I win, right? Because most people are not winning. Uh, Sports betting in general, it relies on people thinking they're smarter than they are generally. Um, and it kind of people start with small bets, these little minuscule bets, right? That did make them money. They get the dopamine hit from it, and then they start being more reckless with their bets, and because they don't actually understand the number on the screen, they don't understand odds. And realistically, any odds that are positive are not in your favor, and negative would be. But even negative odds don't have a guarantee of hitting. And so people make these big ass parlays of all these very hard to hit things. I mean, no discipline at all. They're betting $50 that three different people are going to hit 100 yards, and there's going to be three touchdowns on this side, two on that side, plus a field goal. And it's like, they're not realistic bets. They're bets you put maybe $1 or two down on because they're literally just a lottery pick. It'd be like buying a lottery ticket. But they don't understand that because they think they know better than the bookies do, when in reality they don't. So when I bet, I try to bet as if I am a bookie. I look at the odds of the bet. I look at the odds of my final bet. None of my bets ever go over 2,500 odds, which is still obnoxiously high. But I also only bet $5 to $10 at a time, so my margin of loss is much lower than most people's. And now that that's been said and how harmful it is because everybody knows the only way out is to get lucky, let's focus on the actual sports themselves, right? What if I told you that the NFL partners with DraftKings? Now, in your head, you're like, it probably isn't a big deal. But when you think about it, it's a conflict of interest, right? Because in order for the NFL to partner with a sports book that way, I mean, it quite literally means that they are working against you and working directly with odds makers and bookies to make things happen. It on its own, it can't directly prove tampering, but it takes a lot of the doubt out of whether or not games are being tampered with. And I forget the NBA player who said it. Sorry, I'm gonna move my mic a little bit closer because I think it's probably a little far away. I might be a little quiet right now. But I forget who said it. There it was a big NBA player. He was on a smaller team that had just so happened to do a little bit better. And he even said, like, we all know you got to beat this team by so much in order to go on because no one wants to see us in the finals. And stuff like that really does happen, right? And when you think of stuff that way, you can start fading the average bet, right? So say you got Puka Nacua, who was the only receiver this year and last year to average 80-some yards. Actually, you know what's Jackson Smith-Njigba? I think he did, but he came out of left field about it, which is also weird. You get these receivers that come out of left field now, or these running backs that you weren't thinking they were going to do good, and then they pop off all year. They have these insane numbers, whereas the ones that should be averaging these insane numbers are not. Now, you could say that's just sports, right? But it's really not. I mean, you take Justin Jefferson. I said this in a prior video, I think my first one. Justin Jefferson 6 years ago on any team whatsoever with any quarterback is going for 130 yards plus. You'd be able to bet on it. It'd be accurate. It would happen every game. And realistically, half of these players will have the worst games you've ever seen multiple games in a row. Meanwhile, just 10 years ago, you'd be able to count on your favorite player, whoever that may be, to do his thing every single game. It seems like the quality of sports have gone downhill in the last couple of years, and it directly coincides with sports betting becoming legal as a whole. It's just the quality of the games you watch go way down because somehow, some way, one team could be up 4 touchdowns. Realistically, the chances the other team comes back are near zero. Yet they do it. They come back and it's a 1-score game with 2 minutes left. Consistently, every primetime game is like that. Every single one. It can't happen that way. It's not statistically viable for it to happen as often as it happens. But it does without flaw. So halfway through a game, you can have a team be up 35-7, and you can realistically bet that the over on the points for that game is probably going to be over 70 total, just because one side has 35, and it's almost guaranteed for the other side to come back in some meaningful way. And now you have these high odds on a 70-point game about 2 quarters in. It magically hits because, or it has these invisible chances of hitting because we all know they're going to come back like they always do. They come back every time. And in some ways, if you learn how to play against the script, we'll quote it script because technically I'm recording these videos, and if they ever blow up, I can get sued for it. I don't want to. So the script, if you learn to go against it, you'll find yourself making money, which is interesting, right? Because you can, the first couple games of the season, this is mostly NFL, by the way, because that's my preferred sport. Every sport is like it, though. I hear it from everyone all the time, except for golf, which is much lower margins of winning ability, right? But you hear it all the time of these people putting this time and effort into making their parlays just for it to not hit in the beginning of the season. Sorry for the dead air there. I lost train of thought. I had to get it back, and these videos are off the top of my head, right? So they're not going to be perfect. I don't take the time to edit it because I want it to feel genuine, like we're having a conversation. But at the beginning of the season, I'll put all these time and effort into these parlays that seem like locks, and literally nothing will hit, which is statistically unviable on its own. Like, you have Sure, total odds are low because the total odds take in the final aspect happening, so everything has to happen for you to get paid out, right? That's why the odds are astronomically high on a parlay. But you take a bunch of low risk bets, you put them all in a parlay. Realistically, they have each one has their own high chance of hitting, and then you put their high chance, you add them together, and it makes it harder to hit overall. But these small high chance bets are not hitting, and they're never hitting. They're just not hitting at all. I mean, you'll have a 7 leg parlay and of all small bets trying to make a bigger bet happen, and not a single leg will hit. And you think to yourself, it's like, how is this fucking possible? How did Justin Jefferson not go for 25 yards? Why is Jamar Chase at less than 50 4 quarters into the game? And how come neither of them have a touchdown? And they're the two most elite receivers in the NFL. It got to a point on Thursday nights last season where you could bet on the third string running back scoring a touchdown, and it would hit every game. Every Thursday night and Saturday or Sunday night game too. You could bet on the third string, either tight end or running back. You have a 50-50 shot. One of them are going to score, and they always did. That's nuts. That's unheard of prior to like 4 or 5 years ago. That stuff never happened. It's just so many weird coincidences, right? And you can call them coincidences because there's no way to prove it. There's no way for us to prove what's going on. So you can call it coincidences, and a lot of people probably will because they don't want to actually think about the implications of the biggest sport in America being completely rigged against them. And they'll laugh at you as you say things like that. But then you'll give them statistics, right? You'll give them the statistics of how statistically improbable we should say that this person did not get so many yards in so many games, even though their level of skill is far beyond that of the person of most people who average these yards. So minuscule actually that them having that run of games is statistically near zero. And they'll just be like, well, that's football, and it's just not football. Good players are good for a reason. They make things happen. If something is statistically near zero, it's statistically near zero, regardless of how unpredictable a game may be. And yeah, you do often have people make these insane comebacks in the second half, but not as often as they've been happening the past 3-4 seasons. And I just think it's all bullshit, dude. I think every sports book is rigged, and they're completely and utterly predatory because they know that you don't have any fucking money. They know you're giving them your last $10 to $15, and they're laughing at you because you're making 25,000 odds bets, and they know that there's no chance that you hit them. Meanwhile, you're fucking 70,000 in debt because you had to buy this car to get to work, and now it's put you in the hole, and your only way out of the hole is to make money gambling, and it's super hard to make money gambling because you don't actually understand the theory and what makes somebody profitable, someone who gambles for a living, right? They're gambling in ways that aren't unpredictable. They're gambling in ways like me where they're very disciplined. They have a certain set of ways that they do things, and they work statistics into their favor because that's the only way you can make money gambling is through playing statistics. Which is why some people become very famous and they make lots of money betting. And if you actually watch them bet, not the bets that they're telling you, because a lot of times they're partnered with sportsbooks and they're trying to get you to make bets that are going to win the sportsbook money. But if you were to be able to watch them bet, you would watch them lose $150 like I do and then win $600-700 on that 10th or 11th bet that was statistically viable because they knew if they did this so many times, it's going to have to hit within this many times and you can hedge money that way. You have to have a specific fund for gambling. You have to have a certain amount of money that you're willing to put into gambling to get out of gambling, and you have to be very disciplined while you gamble. To make it less so gambling and more a job. Um, a lot of times the stock market works the same way. You see people make it really big on the stock market, and you have all these normies come in and they try to make all this money on stocks. And they can't do it because they don't understand the amount of discipline and the amount of knowledge you have to have in order to outplay what is essentially a rigged game against you. You have to counter the rig, so to speak. And most people are not even capable of doing it, which is what makes it particularly predatory and harmful, because people think that they can get ahead the way I have, and they can't. The reason you can't get ahead is because you're not... I really hate saying stuff like this. I promise I don't think I'm better than anybody, but your IQ is not high enough to understand what you're actually doing. It's just not. You can't comprehend the numbers on your page because they're unfathomably large, and you can't comprehend the fact that you're not going to get lucky on this one bet. Yeah, you decided, I'm going to put $50 down, maybe I'll get lucky. You're not going to get lucky. You have to stay completely disciplined the whole time. But gambling messes with your ability to understand what you're actually doing and where your money's going. And you think, it's just a pit anyways, I'm just giving my money away. And you don't think of the implications of what you're doing, so you're not actually comprehending the statistics of whether or not you can win big at some point. And chances are a bunch of smaller bets over time are going to net you more money than a bunch of big bets in a short amount of time, which is how I win all my money. And if you're going to gamble, and you shouldn't gamble, it's degenerate. It is rigged against you. The house always wins, they say it for a reason. You should not gamble. But if you do, you need to stay disciplined about it. You need to stop betting your life savings away, and you need to make small, well-informed bets over time to make more money, right? You can have 10,000 odds bets, right? And if you think about it statistically, 10,000, you have four, the way it works exponentially, right? So you'll have 4 100 odds bets, and it'll make you 1,000 odds, realistically, in most sports books. Now, that 1,000 odds per game is statistically not viable. However, over the course of 10 to 15 games, doing 1,000 odds each time, if you're doing well-informed bets, not just putting, numbers on a page, the chances that 1,000 odds is going to hit over 10 to 15 tries is statistically higher overall. And you can kind of hedge the money you're losing, but you're going to lose money, and a lot of people don't understand that you're buying in to get better. At some point, they think that the more money they put in, the more they'll get out, and it just doesn't work that way. You have to be able to bet a lot, but bet little at a time to make more in the long run. And people neither have the IQ nor the discipline to do stuff like that, so it's just going to keep ruining lives. And betting as a whole is fucking awful for society. Gambling as a whole is awful for society. Human beings are not only addicted to dopamine, but the idea of having money that will platform the rest of their life and get them out of whatever the fuck they're in, or the hood they're in, or whatever. People get addicted to that idea, and they get blinded by that idea, and they can't really move past that idea. So it fucks them for the rest of their life, and they have no idea they're doing it until they're too far in debt and too far behind to ever crawl back out. Fuck sports books, fuck gambling. Don't do it. You're not good enough to do it. Stop trying to do it. It's not realistic for you. It's just going to hurt you. It's going to hurt you. It's going to hurt your family. God forbid you have a kid or a wife or both. You're going to hurt them. You're going to hurt yourself. Stop doing it. You're not one of these super high-end people who are going to snowball into the next big win and overall come out on top. I'm one of the few success stories, and I'm only up 3,000 over my total 8,000 I have in. So I've won 11,000. I've gambled 8. The margins are small. They're not realistic. Stop doing it.